Hello, everybody, and welcome to AshaUSA's monthly speaker series. Today, we have with us a guest speaker who is joining us all the way from Virginia. Hello, Alka Deshpande. Let me introduce Alka. Alka is a registered clinical herbalist with American Herbalists Guild and a certified nutritional therapist. She's currently working at and has her independent practice with My Doctor's Pharmacy in Virginia. She also serves as faculty for Professional Herbalist and Nutrition Training Program at International Integrative Educational Institute. And we are really happy to have you here, Alka. I have heard you talk before about various topics, but this particular topic, sugar cravings and how to control them, what are the alternatives. So this has been a great topic and it is close to our hearts. Everybody, irrespective of our age, we all want to break that sugar habit. And thank you so much for being here. So we can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Siley. And first of all, thanks a lot for having me over here for AshaUSA platform. I'm delighted to be the part of the series, what you're offering. And as you are mentioning that this is one of the close topic for everyone, the close to the heart, and looking at our traditional eating habits as well, that sugar is one of the essential part in our regular diet at the same time, just like the overall traditions in the world. So let me share my screen here and let me know if you can see me well. We are good? All right. So as Siley has mentioned, this is just a little introduction about myself. I'm a registered clinical herbalist and a certified nutritional therapist, also as a professional member of National Association of Nutritional Professionals. With this presentation, this is always a disclaimer, which we normally make sure that everybody understands that this presentation is basically strictly to educate people about certain topics, and it should not be taken as any kind of a medical advice at all. If you're making any changes to your diet, your overall protocol of the supplements, medications, make sure that you're talking to your prescribers and let them know what you're about to start or what you're willing to start. All right, so we are all going to start with some basic concepts of Ayurveda, which is one of our part of the trainings as well as a clinical herbalist, along with the other traditional Chinese and also the Western herbalism. So with Ayurvedic concepts, there are 5 main elements which impact our bodies, which is the space, earth, water, air, and fire. So basically it's the bhumi, Jala, Vayu, Agni, and ether. We call it as just the space also, or it's the emptiness of the lighter element of the air. Now, when they combine together, all these five elements, when they combine together, they are formed into 3 doshas, which is the basic constitution any person is born with. There are 3 basic constitutions, that is Pitta, Vata, and Kapha. Or it's a combination of, Pitta is a combination of fire and water, Vata is a combination of air and ether, and Kapha is a combination of water and earth together. And these 3 doshas are, basically every person has 3 doshas, or rather it's born with 3 doshas. In some people, there are 2 doshas which are more dominating than the third one, or I have all 3 combinations together in an equal balance, or there is only one prominent dosha which the person is born with. Now, the most important part which we are going to focus on today is the 6 different tastes which comes, or rather are offered in our regular food. That includes all our medications, all our herbs, whatever we take in our, whatever goes in our mouth, basically. So these 6 tastes are sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and astringent. There is one particular taste which we are going to focus more on today, or rather this is the main topic for today to talk about. But just to give you an idea how these tastes are important, and every taste has this own impact on our bodies. So anything which is in excess, of course, is not a good idea. but everybody should have all these 6 tastes as a part of their diet or as a part of their regular food intake to keep ourselves healthy throughout the life. Now, when the sweet taste is considered, there are 2 basic elements which combine the sweet taste or makes the sweet taste, which is the earth and the water. And the examples of that are sugar, milk, rice, any kind of wheat, flours or wheat, or any kind of pulses or type of pulses we take as well. Their job is to make sure that they are the vital essences of our life. But when this is not taken in a right form or what are not taken a right amount, when it goes into the excess, the reversal will cause the edema or certain type of diseases like diabetes. The sour taste is a combination of earth and the fire. The examples, regular examples are yogurt, vinegar, cheese. Their job is to just make sure that they're stimulating your appetite so you get properly hungry when you're eating. And when it goes into the excess, of course, it's going to cause the heartburn. Same thing with the salty water and fire combination together. Best examples are sea salts or the rock salts or the regular salt, which we use in our cooking. Their job, when taken in the right amount, is actually lessen the spasms in the body. And when it is taken in the excess, very well known is the hypertension. When the pungent taste is taken into consideration, it's a combination of air and the fire. The best examples are black peppers and the chilies. Their job is to improve the digestion when you are actually consuming them in your regular diet or in your regular thali or in the plate form when you say it as. Their job is to, or when they're rather taken into excess, they are not good for the reproductive system. Bitter taste is the combination of air, or is also called as ether, plus the space. Examples are bitter melon, aloe vera. Bitter melon is the best example of it. Promotes any kind of antitoxic activities. They actually cleanse our livers, they cleanse our system really well. But when they are taken into the excess amount, of course, they are going to deplete your plasma and the blood content. Finally, the astringent test, which is a combination of air plus ether. Best example are green beans and any kind of dals like moong dal, tur dal, or any different types of dals, which are dried dals. They promote their job is to any kind of healing into the intestinal ulcers. But when you're taken into the excess, it's going to cause the constipation because it's an astringent taste. So basically, they are going to absorb the water pretty quickly. They're going to make the things dry and also cause the heart spasms. Now, there are some positions on this different taste on our tongue associated with different organs. We're not going to go in deeper about the organs, but as I said, we are going to focus more on the taste type. So if you see the taste, the top of the tip of the tongue is the sweet taste. On the sides of the tongue, you will actually are going to sense the sour. Pungency is at the center. Bitter and astringent is at the back of the tongue, and the saltiness is on the extreme right or extreme left at the backside. Now, when we look into the traditional thalis, this is what we see. A thali is the plate or the serving type. When any kind of festivities are going on or any traditionals or religious rituals are offered at home, this is the atypical thali which has been seen in Indian households or Indian cultures. Like it's like a whole complete meal with different tastes associated with it, including sour, salty, pungent, astringent, everything together. Now, as I said, we are going to focus mainly about the sweet taste for tonight, which is also called as the heaviest kapha characteristics, which is the combination of earth, which is prithvi tattva, and water, which is the jala tattva. So prithvi and the water, or prithvi and the jala together, which is going to make that sweet taste, which is the kapha. Now, kapha itself, as we see, the earth is more as a solid and water more as the moist and flowing. So the qualities of those two are getting combined into that particular taste, which gives us or gives that taste a special quality of oiliness, cooling the body, but at the same time, the heaviness inside the body. Now, when they are taken into a right moderate amount, their advantages are having the anabolic, which is the building actions in the body, which gives you the build of plasma if somebody is weaker, or the patient, when the patient or even the client, or even when somebody is onto the in the state where he needs some kind of an extra nutrition. This sweet taste is offered in a different types. It also very important for any kind of a reproductive fluids. It gives the strength and also the longevity of to the person. It encourages its senses. Beautiful complexion is being seen when it is taken in the right amount, and your voice quality is equally improved when it is taken into the right or the moderate amount. At the same time, when everything has two sides, just we say a coin has two sides, the same way that this particular taste also has another side. When it is been taken in excess, when it is not, especially for particular body constitution, say you are born with a kapha constitution, so, and you are taking this particular taste in a very excess amount, which is not needed or rather not required or harmful for your body type, then the disadvantages are any kind of aggravation of that kapha. When you are actually our kapha constitution and you are giving yourself an excess kapha getting built into your system. And as we saw, it's an elemental properties of earth and water. So naturally, it's going to give you the extra moistness inside your system and also the extra heaviness, which can cause the congestion. It will cause loss of appetite. The obesity is another disadvantage of this taste when taken in excess. And the most important part is the prameha, which is a diabetes, which is cause of this excessive taste, which has been taken for someone which is it's not in balance. The examples of these sweet tastes, and sugar is given in bold because that's our topic for today. So we are going to talk more about that. The other examples are milk, rice, wheat, dates, maple syrup, licorice, all those things. And why milk? Because we are going to see shortly why milk is also been listed in here.
So Alka, this is very interesting. Can you go back to that previous slide?
Sure.
So generally, when we talk about sweets in excess, people generally say excess sugar means diabetes. But look at that list. We never talk so much about, even small things like cold cough, but, abnormal muscle growth. I didn't know that. Tumors, edema, or lymphatic congestion. So we don't talk about these other disadvantages of getting excess sugar. We always think about only diabetes. So this is very informative.
Absolutely, Sari, because that's never been taken into consideration. But if you see our ancestors or basically our family members, when we were growing up, they used to say, don't eat too many sweets, especially if you have cold, if you have cough, you're not allowed to drink milk. Those type of things were, and these wise women of the household, they already knew about these things, but we just never took that pretty seriously. So it does matter. Yeah. It does make a big impact on those education, which is coming from our ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
So now traditionally, if you see how these sweets are being served, there's a particular way of combination of sweets getting served into our traditions, especially the Indian traditions. And again, it's not just Indian tradition, but it's also all over the world. The way these sweets are being served, there is a particular type of spices which gets added into the sweets to balance these things out, or balance the properties out. Usually, instead of serving that as an after meal product, it's usually served at the same time when the whole plate is being served, rather than serving it at the end. And nowadays, when we are coming out of the Indian culture and serving, or rather residing here, it's always been seen as a part of our convenience. We are been serving the sweets at the end after the whole meal is done. But that's not the right way of doing it. It should be served at the same time as a part of our meal. So whenever somebody wants it, they can just use that in between when they're eating the other food. Often these sweets are being served with some kind of a warming spices, because kapha and kapha prakriti, or kapha property, which is earth and water property, is more cooling. So to balance that out, some warming herbs or warming spices are being added into the sweet dish or into the dish to make sure that they're balancing the properties out. Then Indian sweets are often made with a particular type of sugar. They don't use the refined sugar, or never used to have the refined sugar as a part of our traditional way of making these sweets. There's always a natural and unprocessed sugar source, like coming from the sugarcane, like gur. Gur used to be an initial part of that process. But since, as I said, the modernization, the industrialization has happened, and we are using these different types of sugars, which are more convenient and cheaper to use. Now, moving on to our today's topic, what exactly sugar means. So we all know that there are micro and macronutrients which are needed for our bodies. Micronutrients are all vitamins, minerals, then other type of amino acids. Those are the micronutrients which are needed. But the macronutrients are nothing but carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. So these are nothing but the carbohydrates are the main fuel for our energy or for our cells. And this is the broad term. Sugar is basically a broad term of a simple carbohydrate. Now we are going to see what simple carbohydrate means. It's always, we always see or rather hear about these things that, oh, please consume the complex carbohydrates over the simple carbohydrates. So what the reason behind it, what's exactly that means, we are going to see that in the next slide. So considering the differences between the simple carbohydrates and the complex carbohydrates, so simple carbohydrates are usually 1 or maximum 2 molecules of sugar together. They are very, very small molecules and can be easily broken down in our system. They are very sweet in taste. And the best example of those are the fructose, glucose, lactose, and sucrose. When there is an end of OSE, O's, that means it's a type of sugar. It's a simple carbohydrate which we are consuming. The complex carbohydrate, the name itself suggests some kind of a complexity in the molecular structure. If you see the sugar molecule, the actual molecular structure of the complex carbohydrate, there are thousands and hundreds of sugar molecules attached to each other or linked to each other. And that's why they take longer to actually cut down, clip, and then absorb into our system or to taken out or digest into our system. They are not as sweet as the simple carbohydrates. They will be pleasant to taste. But again, as I said, they are not as sweet as simple carbohydrates. And because of their longer structures, it takes longer to digest into the system as well. The best examples of the complex carbohydrates are the fibers and the starches, which we consume in our daily life or in our daily regular food consumptions. Now, looking further down into the simple carbohydrates, as we mentioned, there are 4 main simple carbohydrate classes, which is fructose, glucose, lactose, and sucrose. Out of that, fructose is basically all types of fruits or the sugar sources of coming from fruits, honey, high fructose corn syrup. Glucose is just the plain glucose, dextrose, which we consume. Lactose is the sugar which comes from milk, which comes from any kind of a dairy product. So when somebody is saying that, oh, you know what, I don't take actually my tea without sugar, but that's not true. When you are actually adding milk into your tea, that means you are consuming sugar, which is coming from milk, which is a lactose. So by saying that we are not consuming any sugar at all in your tea, that just says that you're not consuming the refined sugar. You are actually taking sugar from milk. So it's sweetened that way. Sucrose is just the simple table sugar and the brown sugar. Now, fructose is a little bit different from these other 3 sugars because the fructose comes mainly from the fruits and they are absorbed into the liver and then it is stored there and used later on for the energy consumption. So when the fructose is been or the fruits are been eaten, you will not see this sugar spike as the other 3 sugars will have. But the fructose you will probably see that spike later on after a few hours, but not immediately when after the consumption. And that's another reason why fruits are being used as a part of fasting as well. When you're actually fasting on that particular days, fruit is been advised to, or fruits are been advised to eat during those days. Now, white sugar, as we say, it's a type of refined sugar. Now, what is a refined carbohydrate? What do you mean by refined? So there is some kind of a process or procedure happening when the sugar is being made. So refined carbohydrates basically have actually either no nutrients at all or very, very little nutrients in there, which are not that suitable for your system or for your body to have rather to have fulfillment of your nutrition. They are usually processed in such a way that all these vitamins, mineral, enzymes, they have been taken out from that whole sugar molecule, and only the sugar molecule has been left. This refining procedure is usually been applied to make sure that this shelf life of that particular product is longer And there is no since there is no healthy nutrient has been left there, and no vitamins or no minerals or no enzymes are left there. That's why there is nothing to rancid, and that's why they stay longer onto the shelf. It doesn't get spoiled, or it doesn't get bad after a few months. Also, it stays onto the shelf for the longer period of time. Now, the examples of this refined sugar is the brown sugar. And remember, brown sugar do not get mixed with good. Good is different from the brown sugar, which we get it over here. Then high fructose corn syrup, powdered sugar, which is like a confectionery sugar, turbinado sugar, and white sugar. So these are the simple examples of all refined sugar. So whatever we use for making tea or for making all other sweets in our households, we normally use white sugar, which is a part of refined sugar, but there are other substitutions at all that are also available here, which that's the main part we are going to talk about, right? Instead of using white sugar, what are the things which we can use? Now let's see quickly or briefly what are the effects of this refined sugar on our body. Most and important thing, it depresses our immune system a lot. The reason behind this is as you see, the sugar molecules are been broken down quickly in our systems and stays or gets absorbed into our blood. Now, to take out of that, when there is a ample amount of sugar in our blood, you need your insulin levels to rise to make sure that that sugar has been quickly taken out of our system. To all that process, we are not going to go in detail of the biochemistry, but when this process is happening, a lot of vitamins and minerals get used, or rather, it's been needed for that process. One of the essential vitamins are the B vitamins, which needs to get involved in that sugar digestion. Because of that B vitamin used in excess for digesting that excessive sugar, what we're doing, that can lead to rather many chronic conditions, including the diabetes, which is the main problem, arthritis, candida. Arthritis, we say it as mainly when the sugar molecules cause a lot of toxicities, or AMA, that just gets just sets into your system and then gets accumulated into your joints, and which causes that arthritis further on. Candida, which is a fungal infection, depressions, headaches, any kind of liver or kidney diseases, heart diseases, all these are the part of consuming excessive refined sugar when it is not needed for your system. Now let's go into the science of cravings, why this type of cravings usually happens, and what is the reason, one of the reasons behind these cravings. As you can see, this is just a model of fancy model of the brain, which has been seen. The small part in the brain is called as hippocampus, which is responsible for that reward-seeking behavior. Like, oh, you did something good, let's have a piece of a cake, let's have a chocolate. Something like that is one of those reward-seeking behavior, which remembers its hippocampus's job is to remember that. And that plays a very important role in habit forming. I'm sure Saili will play, or rather will talk, or rather will be a right person to talk much about this process, because she's in that field also. As you know, that it remembers the taste of that particular substance. Oh, I ate this 2 to 3 days ago, and that taste is really good, or that made me feel good after eating that. So this type of behaviors are being stored in the hippocampus, and that's one of the component which plays in the part of the cravings. Now, there are three possible dietary causes when we think about what could be the other reason of forming these cravings. 3 major dietary causes. I would say most important one is when the person is not consuming enough amount of proteins in the diet. When there is a low protein intake, your body is not getting fulfilled with the enough nutrients to produce further down for the energy. And that's why a person is going to start craving for the sugar. And remember, whenever there is a drop in the sugar or drop in that energy levels, the first thing which gets affected is your brain. The brain doesn't like that, and brain is going to say, you know what? I don't have enough energy. I need something from somewhere. And the quickest part is to crave for the carbohydrates, or something to reach out for chips, or maybe fruits, or the sugar. Sugar, we know, as I said, our hippocampus knows about that taste, that when I eat this, I feel good and I can get the quick source of the sugar. So that's how the brain says, no, I need that carb. So grab the some kind of a sweet thing and give me that energy. The second part is the high carbohydrate diet. When you are eating not the complex carbohydrate, but when you're eating the simple carbohydrate more in your diet, that's going to cause a sudden spike of the sugar levels. When the sugar levels are high, your body naturally is going to increase the insulin levels. When the insulin levels are high, so that's the point when the brain is saying again, I have a hypoglycemia. I need again the energy or some kind of a quick source to start working back again. So give me some sugar again to make sure that I'm working okay. And that's the time when you're going to start having the sugar cravings. And the third part is the artificial sweeteners. So there are many artificial sweeteners have been used in our different products. I'm not going to mention the name here because of the copyright issues, but there are many sodas, drinks, artificial drinks, even the sweet contents which we get in the stores does have lots of artificial sweeteners. They do impact your functioning of the brain, which gives you that craving at the same time. Now let's look into those three factors a little more in detail. The first one is the low protein intake. The proteins and the fats, their job is to slowly release that sugar into the bloodstream. Whenever you're consuming the proteins, they slowly release the sugar into the bloodstream, keeping that level of the sugar constant to make sure that everything is functioning it well. When there is not enough protein into the diet, the blood sugar is going to rise and fall quickly, abnormally, saying that, as I said, the brain is going to say, I need sugar, I need energy. And that's how your body is going to start craving for it. Now, similarly, as I explained about the high carbohydrate, they get quickly absorbed into the system. It raises the blood sugar level because of because of that, the insulin levels are also going to rise. And again, asking for, I need energy. The body needs that satisfaction and says, yeah, I need more simple carbohydrates. So give me that. I need sugar to satisfy my need. The third part, as we talked about, the artificial sweeteners. Now, these artificial sweeteners mainly are aspartame, saccharin, sucralose. They can disrupt the production of the serotonin. And serotonin is the most important part when it comes to the mood behaviors or the sleep or the digestion. Everything is controlled over here. We say that there is a mind and gut connection. So whatever you eat also affects your mind. So it's very important to make sure that whatever you eat, is it the right thing or right food for your mind at the same time. Now, if you look into the simple process which gets involved into making the sugar, what are the things which actually makes the sugar more devitalized, or why or how this sugar has been made not to have any refined or not have any important things for your system overall or for your body overall. First of all, it comes from mainly two sources, either the sugarcane or the second one is the beetroots. So these cane stalks or the beets are being shredded finely. They are squeezed into the separate machines, and the juice has been extracted. In the second step, whatever juice is being extracted out, either from the sugarcane or from the beetroots, then they go into a different heavy boiling system, and it thickens out there where the molasses or the rich sugar is formed. So the whole process does have sugar molecules, and along with that, it also has the molasses. Now it goes into the centrifuge machines where this molasses has been taken out and the sugar crystals are being separated. So when this molasses has been taken out, the remaining thing is only the sugar crystals with no essential nutrients in there at all. There is a little known fact, not everybody knows about that. The industry has been using this for many years to separate that juice out from the pulp of either the sugarcane or also from the beetroots. It goes into a separate or that's a specialized process of the heating. And that process, if you have seen, usually the refined sugar is very bright and white in color. And the reason behind that is the bleached process, which gets done for that sugar, which uses actually a special char or the filters, which are made from the bone chars or from the cattles. So in a way, along with this other process of devitalization, the cattles are also are being used, they're not supposed to be used into that system at all. Now, looking into the new thing which has come into the industry is the organic sugar. What do you mean by organic sugar? So there is a little difference between the regular sugar and the organic sugar. I would say the main thing is that it is processed, but it may not be as processed as the refined sugar is. It's a minimally processed, and either it is not processed at all or it is minimally processed. So it's not refined and it is not processed fully up to the mark where the refined sugar gets processed. And they do not use any kind of a bone char filters, just the way the other regular industry uses this, because it's not allowed on the national list of organic program. And that's the main difference between those two sugars. Now, looking at instead of using the refined sugar to avoid all that unhealthy benefits to your body, why do we not consider into going to the different types of sugars, which are the natural sweeteners or the natural sugars? So the different alternatives we have is the agave nectar, which is one of the best choice when it comes to the diabetic management. Raw honey, maple sugar, maple syrup. Maple sugar, again, many of us already use the maple syrup for their pancakes or for their other sweet requirements. Molasses, rapadura, stevia, sucanat, or xylitol. Xylitol is another industrial thing which has come into the market.
Can I ask you one thing, especially going back to that list, especially given in South Asian culture, or let's say Indian food, traditionally, as you said, we have used jaggery as another form of sweetener. So would you say that's an alternative way instead of sugar, especially now? I think in India too, there has been increased use of jaggery, like good wali chai, and everywhere you see they're using more and more jaggery like before. So would that go in this list, or that's different?
Yeah, so that can go into that list again, but there are different processes involved now, even to make jaggery. If you see, there is an engineered good, which has come into the market, which is like square and not as yellow as the other one. So the good is supposed to be more darker. If you see the actual original good, especially from coming from Maharashtra, if you see certain parts of Maharashtra where the good is actually made, it's very dark in color. So darker the good, better it is for you. And it should be hard to process. Like when you are actually cutting the good, it takes longer time to actually cut it. But if the good is engineered or chemically processed, you will be able to cut it pretty quickly. So that's another way of understanding. So good is okay, but you have to use the right type of good to actually use into the making those things or making any kind of a dish. So agave nectar, which is the plant source, as I was saying, that it has a low glycemic index, and that's why it is more useful when it comes to diabetic patients. Glycemic index has been calculated, or rather it is one of the major aspect when it comes to managing the diet or planning the diet for the diabetic patients. Yeah, it's actually one of the you can say numbers when carbohydrate is being consumed. It has been compared to the number of the content of the glucose, which is 100. So usually the low glycemic index, when you are saying that way, then you should be keeping the food number or the food categories which are lower than 50. So 50 is the good glycemic index to go for lower than the 50. So agave nectar is one of the low glycemic food index or sweeteners, and it's extracted directly from the plant, the agave plant. So in nectar is basically the rasa which comes out of that plant. And it is a good source of iron. It's a good source of calcium, potassium, and magnesium. Remember, potassium is very essential when you are making the insulin. In the production of insulin, potassium plays a very important role. Now, raw honey is another thing. Remember, honey also comes as a processed honey. So we are not talking about that processed honey. We are talking about the honey which has the actual mother in there, the actual mother content in there, or that little, the beehive in there. So that's the raw honey we are talking about, which is not processed at all. They have a really good enzyme, especially the digestive enzymes, which are needed for our system. They have trace amounts of potassium, calcium, and phosphorus, and they do have healing properties, like they are antibacterial, they are antiseptic. So honey is another good, let's say, demulcent when it comes to the cough and cold. So that's another good way of using honey. So use honey is perfectly okay, but use good type of honey is important. Now, maple syrup again comes from maple sap, and it's a good source of magnesium and zinc. There are two different grades of maple syrup, which involves the processing. And one of them is that there's grade A and grade B, and grade B is actually less refined than grade A because it comes from the sap. So it does require some kind of a process to get to the consumers, the final product. So grade B is the best one to use when it comes to maple syrup. And it's listed usually on the bottle that it's grade B. Now, maple sugar, which comes from the maple syrup, it's a dehydrated maple syrup, and it equally has the same nutrients as the maple syrup, so potassium, calcium, and trace minerals. Molasses is again the byproducts of that refined sugar. We saw step 2, where that when the juice is getting boiled in there, when the molasses is formed, the thick black molasses is formed, it's a really good source of iron. So people who have iron deficiencies, this is a good way of getting that iron source in. Instead of using the regular sugar in your diet, just try to use some extra molasses in your diet. Calcium, copper, potassium, and magnesium. Now, rapidura is another form of a sugar, which is unrefined, unbleached. It's a whole cane sugar. It's another processed form of a sugar, but it's unrefined and unbleached. So it's not white in color at all. It has actually molasses attached to it or added. It's still in there intact. It's not separated from the molasses stream. And it has also the nutrients like potassium, calcium, and magnesium. It's an excellent source to replace the brown and the white sugar in the recipes, and it works really well. So to answer your question, Saili, if instead of using good, rapidura is another good way of replacing that sugar. If you, especially in like Srikhand or making gulab jamuns or there are many different sweets, you can actually use the rapidura instead. So and this is easily available in the United States.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. So where do we find this sugar? It's available in regular grocery stores?
Yeah, so any whole food stores will contain this sugar. So whole food stores usually carry this type of section where they have healthy sugar alternatives. Now, jaggery, as you were asking about, this is also an unrefined sugar. It's made without filtering the molasses. So just the way the rapidura is, the jaggery is also made in a similar way. But this comes from India. This is from the rapidura is from the other country. So it's just, again, the source of iron. Good is excellent when it comes to the immunity building, and it aids in the digestion. If you remember, our Aji, Azuba, our grandfather, grandmother used to say, when somebody comes from the hot summer days, when you come home, give them the good and water.
Yeah.
Give them good pani. So that's another way of calming your system down, or giving them the good immunity or hydration when somebody comes from out. And also it gives you that good source of instant sugar as well.
Yeah, and in winter, in Sankranti, we say til and gur, til gur gya. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So that's there is some importance of why these traditions are being, or there is a traditional food served at particular different seasons when they fall in different seasons. Now, stevia is another good example. This is another new form of a sugar. It's an herbal extract, has slightly aftertaste to it. So, and we actually use stevia, xylitol, both of them in compounding a lot, like compounding medications. The stevia is another source of adding the sugar. Instead of using the regular sugar, we do add stevia, mainly in the PPIs when we compound the PPIs. The good part about that stevia is you cannot use too much, because when you try to use too much, it's going to give you the bitter taste. So whenever you are eating stevia, and if you think that my whatever is my final product is tasting a little bitter, it's because you have added extra stevia to that. So stevia is the requirement of stevia is very little in comparison to the other ones, and it may not spike the blood sugar as the other ones. So it's a popular alternative to an artificial sweetener. So if instead of artificial sweetener, if somebody is definitely craving for something, stevia can be used at that part. Now, sucanat is another type of organic sugar. And again, I'm not promoting any particular brand. It's just whatever is available at home or whatever was there. So I just took that picture from there. So it's extracted from sugar by squeezing process, and it does not have the molasses removed. So it's especially good for baking. So it equally turns out well, any kind of cookies, brownies, if you're making, instead of whole wheat flour or the refined flour, you can always use the almond flour as an alternative. But when you use this sugar, the final product turns out good. Yeah, I mean, especially the cakes. Cakes turn out really good with this sugar. Now, xylitol is that last option, which is again a new product of the industrialization. This is the sugar alcohol, basically, and is used. The picture of gum is been listed here is because it's a main product of gum, and it's been proven that xylitol is also helpful when it comes to the gum and teeth health. So chewing just the gum with the xylitol after meal, that's proven to be a good part of taking your dental hygiene in control. And it's safe for diabetic people. It naturally occurs in all fruits and vegetables. So it's one of the natural sources also. Now comes to the final part of our presentations, that what are the 6 ways to break this sugar habit? We talked about all different types of sugars, how the craving occurs, and how to actually take control of it. There are very, very little things which we can take into consideration. First and the most important thing is to watch for the food label. When it comes to and whenever we go into the markets, the first thing is to look into back of the label and see how much is the added sugar in there. Is there, first of all, added sugar, or the actual sugar is coming from the natural source? So products which says natural or the low fat, they are often labeled with the artificial sweeteners also. So be aware of that. Like aspartame is one of the examples that has been added in the lots of low fat, especially low fat yogurts. So try to look for those. If it is listed as an aspartame, that's not what you want to look for. I would say just take the regular yogurt if you want to, and just add a little bit of these natural sugar sources which we listed. Just add a little bit if you're really craving for those sweet, and just mash some fruits, whatever has been needed to your choice. That's the definite way of making something at home rather than grabbing anything from the store. So just be aware of the labels, what you're actually reading. Is there any added sugar or sweeteners in there? Second and most important part is to prepare your own meal. If you are preparing your own meal, you know exactly what you have added and how much you have added, because you can actually control the sugar portion. Everything which is listed out, most of the ingredients or most of the products which are store-bought, you will see some kind of a sugar added in there. I'm not saying everything has it, but there are most of the products which will have sugar in there. Even a simplest example of having the spaghetti sauce or the pasta sauce, they will also have the added sugar content in there. So preparing your own meal, planning it ahead of time, giving yourself maybe a half an hour to an hour extra every day just to spend time for, and when you cook yourself for the family also, that gives you a pleasure that you know that I'm doing something right for the family and they are getting fed the good amount of nutrition, whatever is been needed, rather than grabbing something from the refrigerator and heating it up. Once in a while, it's fine. I mean, we are all busy and our lives are like that, but try to make your own meal as much as you can. Then third thing, this is more important when it comes to the, as I said, again, every person is different. Every case of a diabetic patient is different. So when it comes to the overall management, the healthy bridge snacking is also a good way of controlling your blood sugar levels also. Now, when I'm saying the healthy snacking, that does not mean grabbing popcorns, grabbing chips, or grabbing granola bars. It's more like making your own trail mix, get nuts and seeds together. We call it as tane futane. So that's the chickpeas and also the peanuts. Just make that combination. Yeah. We all grew up on that kind of stuff when we were growing back in India. That
yes, roasted peanuts, roasted chickpeas, roasted seeds.
Yeah, those are all low glycemic foods. Try to eat those. That's something which is needed. Fresh fruits, like not very high sugary fruits, not every day reaching out for a watermelon or mangoes, but all different types of categories of fruits, like berries to the grapes or different types of fruit combinations together, and make sure that you're drinking plenty of water at the same time. Because what happens is most of the time when you get bored or when you have nothing to do, your brain is like, you know what, I'm bored, let's grab something. So sometimes you're not even hungry, you're just thirsty. So when you get that type of craving, first of all, maybe grab a glass of water, drink, and see if you're really hungry. So drinking plenty of water is equally important, just the way you are consuming food.
Yeah. And especially to keep in mind is for kids in our house,
Yep.
right? If you look at the grocery store aisles, generally the foods that are geared towards kids have so much processed stuff in there and sugars, like whether they're cereals, breakfast bars, or, different kinds of fruit gummy bears or whatever. Everything is so much sugar and processed food that instead of that, if the kids can just have access to some of these nuts and fruits, fresh fruits, that would be a great choice for them to learn early on.
Absolutely. And this is so funny. I'm glad you mentioned it, because if you see the structure of the grocery stores, I mean, not every grocery stores, I'm saying that general grocery stores, when you enter it in, all these produce sections and good amount of foods, they're all lined up at the wall. They're not at the center. As soon as you walked in, the first thing when somebody grabs it at the center, which is loaded with all these artificial food categories. So
Right.
because that's more easy to access. So you're right, absolutely. Instead of giving them a habit of grabbing something from the store-bought things, make yourself at home, maybe on weekends or Sundays. You can ask kids to join you and make maybe a homemade, we call chuda. It's made with
Yeah.
flattened rice, or even with millet popcorns. You can make things with them, or makhana, which is the lotus seeds. There are so many good options you can do, or trail mixes at home and give them that. Maybe to add them extra rewards, you can add some chocolate chips maybe in there, like bitter chocolate chips. There are choices, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then after school snacks, I remember giving my kids after they came from school, having bowls of carrots and celery
Yep,
and cucumbers. And then that is the first thing they have to eat if they want something else.
absolutely.
So
That's
always
very,
giving the healthy options first and then other.
yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. You're right. And the next part is to tricking your brain. As I said, Siley will be a best advocate for that. But getting yourself into a training of your brain is most important, because it's like a process, when your brain knows that it's a habitual thing. When I know that I'm going to get it, even though I have an easy access to this, if you try to break or trick your brain, the best thing to do for this, for the sweet cravings, and this is proven, this is a study which I've listed here. Just try this out. But it says that whenever brain smells the sweet smell, and it's been detected by your sensory olfactory receptors, it's actually the message has been sent that I'm actually eating that.
Oh,
So it's one of the parts that you can try it out, that whenever there is a craving in between, and if you get the essential oil of especially vanilla, which is a sweeter essential oil, and smell it, it actually satisfies your craving of the sweet. So try this out and see how that works.
yeah. Yeah,
If you
that's a
repeat
great
that,
idea. Easy to
just
do too.
easy to do. It's a good beginning to do, get the craving started. And it's going to take time. It's not like within first day or second day you are going to have that. But maybe if you continuously do that for 30, 40 days straight, maybe your brain is like, you know what, I'm good with that. I don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
Then another natural way of training your body is to make sure that abruptly do not stop anything. Because when you say, it's just like every end of the year on 31st, we say, you know what, from tomorrow, I'm going to go to the gym. So
Yeah.
that happens only for 4 or 5 days, and then we come back to the regular routine. So instead of that, just taper everything gradually rather than stopping it abruptly. So it could be any kind of habit. So just like sugar, because your body is going to cause the withdrawals when you're having sudden abruptly stopped habits. So instead of that, start with the simple thing of having no sugar no refined sugar in your tea. Start with your tea, not having any sugar, just the milk in there. Because remember, when you're taking milk, you are actually getting the lactose, which is the natural form of sugar from milk, into your diet. So start with that. Say, instead of eating 3 sweets a day, I'm going to eat only 2, or I'm going to eat only 1. And then gradually you should stop that, instead of stopping anything like, I'm not going to do that from tomorrow onwards. So don't do that. Just abruptly taper it down. Then Ayurveda solutions, we are going to take a quick look. It's not something which is, again, and then whatever I'm going to let you know here, as I mentioned in the disclaimer, make sure you're talking to your prescribers, or if you're especially on medications, you must talk to your whoever is giving you are under the care for, to discuss this plan with them. There are three major categories, as we saw: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So for Vata people, who have, if they are giving their mid-morning or midday cravings, they should be using the ashwagandha kalpa or ashwagandha powder mixed into the date sugar, especially at the time of morning or the time of midday cravings. So, and when I say Vata, it's a constitution I'm talking about, people with the Vata constitution. Pitta, the best formula works is the Mahasudarshan with honey. That controls the cravings particularly for Pitta type of people. And for Kapha, the Shardunika, we also call it as Gymnema. In the Western countries, this is known as Gymnema or Shardunika. Basically, Shardun is with the sweet taste. Shardunika is the destroyer of the sweet taste. So the best part about this powder is, and this is again good for diabetic people also, that when they get that craving in between the two meals, if you take a pinch of powder of the Shardunika and just split it, just put it on your tongue, tip of the tongue where the sweet taste is. So when you put it on the tip of the tongue, and after maybe 15 to 20 minutes, first of all, it stops the craving. And second of all, when you try to eat anything sweet after consuming this powder, the person is never going to have any sweet taste tested at all. So that's another good reason of using Shardunika as a part of this program that we are trying to come out of the cravings. And this is all about whatever we talked about, the main things today. As Siley said, that if you guys have any questions, you can reach her out. And my email has been shared here. And your guys are more than welcome to send any kind of queries or emails about today's presentation. And thank you again, Siley, for...
Yeah, thank you, Alka. First of all, let me tell you, for the topic of your presentation, your pictures are too good. Like, instead of thinking not to eat, with every picture, I'm like, okay, that's even like, I'm feeling like eating those things. So these are beautiful pictures of desserts and all the sweets. And so, yeah, it was really hard to resist. So we had to really trick our brain to say, okay, this looks good, but what she's saying is you shouldn't be eating this. So yeah, no, thank you very much. This was very informative. And, actually, I had some questions, but as you went through your presentation, they all got answered, almost all of them. So quite a lot of things that we learned. First of all, eating sweets and desserts with the main meal is important rather than waiting for desserts to eat at the end. And especially now that you mentioned that now we are here in US and we go to all these get-togethers and parties, or even at home, we have the meal first and then have the dessert. So that's the wrong way to do it. So maybe making that change, that serving dessert along with the main food, is a good idea. Then you talked about the natural sweeteners that we can use as instead of refined sugar. So agave and honey and so on and so forth. So some of them I had not even heard. So thank you so much. That's a very good information. Also, if somebody still wants to use sugar, they can find organic sugar. That is a better option. And also consuming enough protein and fats, because then you don't crave for carbohydrates. I think that's a good reminder, especially people who are vegetarians and who might have to really be conscious of what are their protein sources. And also today's age, when many people are conscious of eating fatty foods or, limiting their fats, it's a good reminder that we need all the different ingredients, nutrients to complete our meal, and we can't just eat one type of food. And I love the fact that you said take time to prepare your meals, do it together with the family, and provide healthy choices. So I would say everybody, when you go out to eat with friends or go to a party or a host party at your place, always think of what are the healthy alternatives to whatever you are planning to cook or planning to bring, because there's always something healthy that you will find. So instead of thinking, oh, everybody eats this or everybody brings this, like for example, soda, and you can talk about it, Alka, like soda is one thing that we have always tried not to buy it and bring it home. But when there's like a kids party with pizza and stuff, they always, my kids won't, but their friends will always ask if there's soda, because pizza goes with soda. And so I had to always come up with creative juices and different kinds of things. So, and soda has a lot of sugar, right?
Yep, absolutely. It's a high caloric food. It's like consuming straight away 350 calories when you have a whole can of soda, whole can of any kind of sodas at all.
Yeah, yeah. So it's hard to resist when that's the popular thing. But all these are great tips. And you mentioned briefly about food labels, but I know you are an expert on that as well. So we would love for you to come back and do a session for us on how to read food labels so as to make right choices.
Absolutely. And thank you so much again, Saili. Thanks for having me on this platform. And you're doing a great job of spreading this word, making everybody aware, especially through ASHA. It's a great opportunity for every speaker to have it on this platform.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for giving us your time. And we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.